So I can go ahead. Yes, recording started. So hi everyone. First, let me go in full screen like that. You see just the full one. Do you see my screen in full, or do you see? I think perhaps you see the incorrect one. Is it
Yeah,
working, Alan,
correct.
or it's the you see the left part?
The left part. Okay.
Okay, so let me not go in full screen and just keep it like that, and just do it like that, like that. You can see the screen well. So welcome to the MuleSoft meetup at Tokyo. So it's Mark's birthday all around the world, and today we will talk about SalesforcePubSub API with MuleSoft. So I'm Jerome Brugier. I will introduce myself a little bit afterward. You can use my pronoun he, him. So nothing special. Into the agenda, we will make a small introduction about myself, like then also ask me questions that are specific to that presentation, but if you would like also questions that are also a little bit outside of that presentation. We'll talk a little bit about what is Salesforce. Perhaps just one note about question is if you could write down your question during the presentation, like that we can keep the 20, 30-minute time frame, and like that we have enough time to really tackle all the questions, because otherwise it will be a little bit complex to manage the time. Um, as I was saying, we will talk about Salesforce. So, I mean, everyone is talking about Salesforce, but what is Salesforce? Then we'll talk about the integration option of the core platform. So I will explain FDC and the core platform quickly. We'll talk about the event-driven architecture capability of SFDC, of the core platform. We'll talk about the platform event with the PubSub. So what are PubSub? What we are talking about it now. We'll see an example of a business use case that is using platform event. So you will see it's one from the past. So it was not using PubSub, but in the end, it's exactly the same. Then we'll talk about additional information for the platform event, because that's really important, because there are a lot of things that are working well, but there are also limitations of the event. And I will show you also one implementation that for me is one of the way to go, but it's not, I mean, there are still some cases where you wouldn't do it like that. If we talk about pros and cons. And then we made a little bit of MuleSoft application. So we'll go through that MuleSoft application, show you a little bit Salesforce, what we have configured into Salesforce for that, go into each of the components and explain you a little bit what we have. So it's more the behind the scene and the demo part. And as I was telling you, please, for Q&A, keep it for the end. So feel free to write down your question. Even you can even write it down on the chat, and we can review them afterwards. So I'm Jerome Brugier. As you see out of my name, I'm from Europe, so I'm from Switzerland. I'm from a small part of Switzerland where we are speaking French. That's why you will hear a little bit of a French accent, because I'm not making a lot of efforts over my accent, but I hope you will be able to understand everything that I'm saying. So I'm a solution and integration architect. I'm working now for an insurance company, so it will be nearly a year now I'm working there. But in the past, I've worked for Merkel, IBM, Accenture for over 8 years. So I was doing really Salesforce and MuleSoft. So even I've started my journey with Salesforce in 2016 now, and I've started my journey with MuleSoft in 2018. So I've been even really lucky over that one, because I was doing like kind of other middleware in the past. So I was doing a little bit of Talent, a little bit on Informatica, and then I saw MuleSoft. I started the training. I say, oh, okay, that one is really interesting. So it was Mule 3 back at that time. And then 2 months after my start of I think it was halfway through the full, let's say, learning before the exam, Salesforce announced the acquisition. So for me, it was really good. I know that not everyone was happy with that acquisition, but I think the product is still really good, and it's now part of Salesforce. But we know that it's still a little bit of an exception inside the Salesforce world. My soft skill, critical thinking, teamwork, and dedication for sure. My value for me that's really important, fairness. I think it's going also with integrity, because I mean it's really important to be fair among everyone, and I mean at least on any interaction, and attentiveness to, I mean, to do the things properly, and I think of course business value. So I've got some certification, as I like to call it. So I've got some in Salesforce, so a lot of Salesforce certification, but also MuleSoft. So I passed, as I was saying, that is now it's no longer there because it's only 2 years in the past. So there was the MuleSoft 3 API Associate that I passed. Then I took the MCD 1, so it was the Delta at that time. Then I took the I think I started here with MCPA, then MCIA, and then of course MuleSoft Associate was just because it was really quick to make. But I think for anyone even starting on MuleSoft, I think it's a good starting point to take the associate. And I'm pushing anyone that is trying to start MuleSoft with the associate, and if you're starting Salesforce, also with the admin associate. So it's a good starting point. So the associate before the admin. And I've got also some of the certification that are more, let's say, project management certification, because I like to keep that mindset about delivery in every project. And that's a little bit about myself. And in terms of MuleSoft project, I think I made at least 4 or 5 implementation on client, on small client, and on really big clients. So I saw a little bit of everything. So yeah, that's about me. Then about Salesforce. So everyone is talking about Salesforce, but they say, oh, I'm making an integration with Salesforce. But what we mean by Salesforce is a little bit like saying, yeah, we will integrate with SAP, or we will integrate with Microsoft. But that's the reality of the thing. Salesforce is just a company, and they have acquired a lot of different products. So do be careful when you're talking about Salesforce. Most of the time, we're talking about what we call the core platform. So I will show you that slide because it will really help you to understand where are the things. So the core platform is really what we call the native cloud. And that one is really composed by Sales Cloud. So I can even show you on the slide, Sales Cloud, Experience Cloud, Service Cloud, and the platform. And then afterwards, you have also things on the top. So for example, you have CPQ, you have billing that is not explained over here. You have those sales enablement that were Matrix and that now sales program. And I'm telling you to be really careful about when you're saying Salesforce, because there are other projects that has been acquired. So for example, there's the commerce project. Now there are 2 of them. So Demandware, that sometimes people are saying, I'm integrating with Salesforce, but they are talking about Demandware. And Demandware is a really different project, and really I would say it's completely different to integrate with now B2C commerce. B2B commerce is on the core platform, so that's not really important. Then we have Marketing Cloud, so we have 2 projects, so Exact Target and Pardot. We have Data Cloud, and we have many others. So just to let you know that's really important when we are talking about Salesforce, to ask the question, what are we talking about? Are we really talking about SFDC? So that's the acronym that we still like to use for Salesforce.com. And that's mean with the core platform. So it could be sales, it could be service, and so on. And there's also some, let's say, industry products. So for example, as I'm working for an insurance company, we're using what we call FSC for Financial Services Cloud, and it's on the top also of the core platform. So it's still a core platform, but there are some, let's say, additional objects. So what we call, in the end, a data model that is specific to all of those industry. So there are also multiple other one, manufacturing cloud, non-profit cloud, and so on. On all those one, we are calling them cloud also. So yeah, just be careful about that. And yeah, of course, if you have question over that slide, feel free to ask me afterward. Of course, I can explain you about MuleSoft, but I'm pretty sure that you know a little bit about MuleSoft as you're part of that of that meetup. But I'm also available for that. Then we talk about the integration with the core platform. So what we're calling Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and so on. So now we will just call it SFDC. So there are multiple design patterns. So those are the design patterns that Salesforce is providing and explaining. Those design patterns, most of the time, end to end, they are working together. So most of the time, you don't just not have one of those. End to end, you have multiple one. So for example, the one that is well known is the fire and forget, meaning that we're sending in information, and yeah, there's an HTTP request and response that is coming back, but we are not doing the full cycle that is coming afterward. That's why for the full, let's say, life cycle of end-to-end, depending what you need, of course, you need to have also a remote calling. And remote calling is just a call to Salesforce from the outside. So what we call the outbound integration. And to explain you quickly, request and reply is just an HTTP request and a response. That one is a little bit the same, but it's just more an acknowledgement that there will be something happening, but it's not a confirmation of that one. Batch data synchronization is, of course, when you have a lot of data all over the place and you would like to, let's say, synchronize them. So for that one, we're using the bulk API that you can see just over here, because there's a lot of data volume to manage. So there's a specific API for that. Remote calling is just a call to Salesforce, so nothing special. And then we have specific one, if I can call them like that. So we have the UI update based on data change. So it's just in the end a REST call or even a SOAP call that is then taken from Salesforce to just act upon that change. And data virtualization is what we call, I mean, most of the time, OData. And I mean, there are other way of doing it, but the, let's say, standard implementation is with OData and with a product called Salesforce Connect. But there are, of course, other way of doing that data virtualization, and it just sometimes making sense to not store the data within SFTC. So that's why we have also that design pattern. That's about all the, let's say, design patterns that are available from SFDC. But then afterward, we have different capability that we can use with those design patterns. So we have the REST API. So that one, I'm pretty sure you know well. I will not explain you what is the REST API. But there's one thing to really keep in mind is you have two different connectors from a MuleSoft perspective. So you have the standard one. It's really like I would like to insert an account, and then you have the composite one, and that one is really interesting. And I think most of the project should use it because, for example, you can update 200 records at the same time, but you can also say, okay, I have a tree with account, contact, and perhaps something else. You can make that full update in a single call. So it's really convenient to not make too many calls. And of course, I mean, it's good to not make too many calls, like that the performance are better and so on. So keep in mind that this is really another one that you have to request. So there's another dependency that you can just look for Salesforce, and you will see composite. Same with the PubSub that we will talk about a little bit afterward. There's another connector, so that's really important to check. Oh, there's another connector that I need to request and use for those specific action. Then we have SOAP API. So that's, I mean, a little bit more old-fashioned. It has also some pros because you have a contract with the WSDL and so on. So that's a capability that is used sometimes. Then we have the HTTP callout. So those are used, at least in the past, were used a lot in AppText. Now we have a new version with the flow. So it's the no-code, low-code version. I will show you even one afterward quickly about what is a flow. Because in the end, it's also misleading because we have also flow on MuleSoft, but I would show you that like that you can understand that it's a different type of flow. And that one behind the scene is using the external services. And for me, that's another capability. I mean, we don't have really the time to talk about it, but it's really an interesting capability because you can really create a contract. So, I mean, it's really it's the version, I think Swagger, I think it's possible with Swagger, so with version 2, or with OpenAPI, so version 3. I think there are still some limitation about those external services. I think they are not in YAML, but in JSON and things like that. So there are some limitation, but still it's really powerful because you can say, okay, I have a service even in MuleSoft, and you can really take it from the endpoint, exchange, and say, okay, I have a new service that I want to import, and it will also import the contract. So a really cool capability, and I think it's really powerful. Of course, it shouldn't be used for all the integration because it's also complex to make the contract and so on. But it has all all those powerful things about versioning, about being sure about the contract, the payload we have, and so on. So really a cool capability. I think it's underused at the moment, so feel free to have a look. And we have the bulk API that I mentioned a little bit before. So I mean, it's all to manage a lot of data. Metadata API, a little bit more complex because we're going into, let's say, the details of Salesforce. So you have a lot of things behind the scene on Salesforce. So it could be code, it could be things you're doing with configuration, and nearly all of those things are available into the metadata API. But we're not using them most of the time for integration. It's mostly used for deployment. Then we have the PubSub API. So that's our presentation today. And even I forgot to mention before, today we are the International Cat Day. So if you have a cat, feel free to really take care about your cat and giving him a lot of food, at least today. So yeah, it was just something that I forgot to mention. But yeah, PubSub API, it's the new way of making integration with platform event and with change data capture that we're calling CDC. Before it was with CometD. So I will come back a little bit over that one to explain you a little bit about what is PubSub API and why it's the new way to go. And then we have a last one that is GA for some time now. I didn't even saw it when they GA that one, but it's really a convenient one. It's GraphQL. So if you want to have a look, it's really cool what you can go do with GraphQL. But most of the time it's more used for mobile integration and those kind of things. So it's answering to some of the need. But yeah, I mean, desktop integration with that, it's possible still, but it hasn't really been created for that. So that's a little bit about the integration option. Then we have the event-driven architecture with the event bus. So on Salesforce, there's an event bus that is available. Of course, when we are using PubSub API, it's going over there. Same when we were using previous technology that I will quickly mention a little bit afterward. It was also going to the event bus. If you having a project that was from the past, there was also, so we talk about platform event and change data capture. They were also having two others that were available. So just keep in mind that you could have different type of event also that are available over there. Also now most of the event bus, they should be with high volume event, but keeping that in the past they were also creating events that were only available for 1 day. But now all of the new integration, it's available for 3 days, and that's the really cool thing, is that you have that replay ID where you can really go like it's on any, let's say, bus. Let's say Kafka is a little bit more advanced, but let's say on an MQ, you can really go back and say, okay, I have that replay ID and I would like to sort back from that specific replay ID. Do be careful about replay ID. Don't try to increment it because it's not working like that. So I mean, we will see it afterward. I think it's far better to store it into an object store. And that's a little bit about the event bus from a high-level perspective. Feel free to go, even I'm putting all the links, so Alan, feel free to also share that information with all of the people, like that they can also see the link and have a look if they want to check those links. Then we talk about PubSub, so that's the most important one. So it's used based on gRPC, so Google Remote Procedure Call, and that one is really based on HTTP2. So that's really the new standard for making any integration. You should go with PubSub API and not with what we're using in the past. So in the past, it was what we call CometD and Bio Protocol. That is still also an old protocol. and it was really the only way of making integration for anything with the Salesforce Plus. So that's really something to keep in mind. There's now one API to make everything: publish, subscribe, and retrieve. And as I was saying before, it's you can send sequentially, and also there's a replay ID. That's what I was about to say. The replay ID, that is super important, and they are keeping it. If you're sending everything in batch, they are keeping that into the orders. But of course, if you're sending a lot of different batch, you have to be careful about also the order for the bus. And event schema now is version that was not available before. So if anybody else is making a change into the contract, so the platform event, now you are able really to detect, oh, a change has happened, and it's working like that. So I forgot that I also have some notes over here. Yeah, and platform event, they shouldn't be used for all the integration. For me, what is making the most sense for the platform event is always when you're going out of Salesforce. So you are master in terms of data and you would like to push something out of Salesforce. It's still possible on the outbound side to come back. But it's not really recommended. It's possible, but that's not what I am recommending. Another use case is when you have things only within Salesforce. So there are sometimes the platform event could be used for that, for example, for communication across multiple apps or things like that. But that's not, for us, it's not really important. Now I will show you an example of a business case. So that was for a client into the watch industry, a client that is also here in Japan. So I cannot name it, but you can see into the watch industry, there are not a lot of, let's say, manufacturer. And that project was really that they were having a portal that was going out, and they were not having support for that one. It was too expensive, and they wanted to migrate to Experience Cloud. And at the same time, they wanted to use MuleSoft. So it was really their first version, the implementation of MuleSoft. It was even recommended by the group. So they were having like kind of, let's say, advantage to use MuleSoft. That's why they wanted to go fast. So the first thing that you will see is that they're only 2 layers. And I'm pretty sure that you will ask yourself why you made only 2 layers. And we made that because the ERP that you can see over here is only the second ERP that they have. And they have another one that in the end, the plan for, I think it should be now around those years, is to have a single ERP and decommission that specific ERP. That's why we took the decision to only go with 2, because we know that it will be decommissioned, and that we know like that we have a little bit of time to think about it. Should we really use 3 layers, or should we keep it to 2? That's also a question that when I was working for other clients, that they were asking themselves about really the return on the investment of having always 3 layers. As we know, it should have a return of investment, but all the clients are thinking the same. And that specific use case was after sales services. So really, after you had sales and you have your watch and you would like to send it because there's some issue. Is it in warranty? Not in warranty? So that's why it was first creating a case, then after going over there, then going over here. No queue were needed because, as you see over here, we have the platform event. So that's another return of investment, is that you don't need to have another MQ in between, because you still have that 3 days, let's say, retention. And it was really enough for use cases, because in 3 days, you still have the time to monitor and check if there has been any issue. Then there's a call to the ERP solution. The ERP solution was doing something. And then there are 2 calls. As you see over there, it's in PLSQL, so it's Oracle based. And then afterward, the information was first coming back over here saying, okay, the case has been updated, the master is the ERP, and then they were doing other things. So they were receiving the watch and checking if it was under warranty. Let's say the watch is not not under warranty, then what it was doing over here is a second call over here that you can see over here saying, yeah, it's not under warranty. And the client has to pay perhaps, I don't know, 200 francs because there's that issue and that thing that we can change. And the client can whether say, I'm okay with that and I'm not okay with that. And they can then pay. So they were using at the end and pay by link on that one. But yeah, that's one of example of platform event, but that's only one. There are a lot of business use case for the platform event for sure. Then additional information, that one you really have to keep in mind the limitation, because I mean, out of the box, you can have 50K items record per day. So do be careful if you have data migration or things like that. If you go over that one, then afterward, your event won't be consumed anymore and you will have issue. Of course, if you're working for a client or I mean, for a company that has a lot of information, what company are doing is asking to Salesforce what we call an add-on license. And at least the company I saw two of them ask for an add-on license, and one add-on license, it's not too expensive and it's giving 100K on the top of that. So you have 150K limit, and it's really good. Do be careful, those events are shared across a lot of different things that explain a little bit over here. But yeah, when you are consuming that message, then you have +1 over here. Another thing that is still important to talk about is that there's now a new integration license. So there are 5 of them that are valuable. So feel free to have a look over that slide. And of course, if you want to, let's say, save a little bit of money, use those integration user. Then we have platform event specific implementation. So there are multiple ways of making that implementation. I will show you a little bit afterward one implementation. But the one that I do prefer, there are pros and cons, but I do prefer make what we call the generic platform event. So we are sending the information that is generic enough. So we say, okay, let's say it's a case. So that's the one we'll see afterward. There's a record ID, there's an operation, it's an update, or it's a delete. And then there are some other that are not mandatory. So there's a status, and we could have also a record type name. And the really convenient thing with that is that you have no PII, DII data, so no data that is, let's say, a little bit tricky to manage because of all the, let's say, rules all around the world. I don't know if in Japan you have such a rules, but in Europe we have GDPR. In California, they have even more, let's say, stronger rules over there. So it's really important to not store that information. So that's why we prefer to first make a generic platform event, store it, and then afterward, it's the consumer that should make another call to get all the information. Of course, because of that, you have to be careful about timing issue. If you think that during that time, the data can change and it could have a lot of impact, you need perhaps to find a solution in between, because otherwise you would face a serious challenge. So that's why I'm always saying, I mean, that's one solution, but it's not fitting everything. So do be careful about using the solution in the right context and asking the right question. So that's about that one. And now I will show you a little bit one Mule application that we made. So there's, of course, I mean, I will not explain you about the Anypoint Studio, but I have, as I was saying before, we need to have at least 2 different connectors. So there's the Salesforce one that, I mean, in the end, you're finding it even already in module that you can just drag and drop. And there's a new one for the SalesforcePubSub over here. And then we can see over here that there's the configuration with the platform event. Over here, I can even show you some of the configuration. So over here, there's the consumer key. Of course, when you make those integration, don't go basic authentication, because that's not secure at all. Even Salesforce will recommend you to not go with basic authentication or with username and password. Always use GWT or another one that you know that it will be it is secure enough. It's not GWT that should be always used, but at least it's a secured one. And then if we're coming back over here, there's a second one. So you have to configure both of them because they are really, really different. So you cannot reuse those configuration, but that's not too big of a deal. And of course, if we would have composite API, we would have a third configuration that doing that same integration. And what we're doing over here is that we're setting just a variable with some information. Then we are querying some data out of Salesforce with the platform event. We're making a little bit of transformation to also display the message as we would like to have. And then we are logging the payload. So let me just show you the version over here. So I need to move that over here that you can see. So I'm on Salesforce, I'm on a specific case. Over here, we can see that I think already started. I already made one test over here, like that we don't have to wait for the application to redeploy. And I will make a change. Let's say, okay, I want to change it from medium to high and save it. And then we can see over here, there's the new payload that is available over here. So it seems to be quite easy. Behind the scene, there's still some configuration, so I can show it to you quickly. I think we still have 2 minutes, so I think I'm just on time. It's good. So there's the app manager that you can see over here. App manager is a mix of the apps that you have in Salesforce, but also the connected app. And for example, over here, we have that one that I have created, and I can even view it over here. So you can see that's the connected app that is connecting to Salesforce to making any of the two integration that I just showed you before. There's the platform event, the generic platform event. Oops, sorry about that. Platform event over here that you can create. And then afterward, you have that one over here with the information. So you can create new field. And as I was saying you before, now with PubSub is version. So if anybody is making change over here, you will see that there has been some change and you can say, oh, why are you changing the platform even contract? Because in the end, it's also a little bit of a contract. And I told you that I will quickly show you also what we can make in the core platform in terms of flow. So that's really no code, low code. So for a project, depending the volume and things, do be careful because it's not always the best way to go. Sometimes we do prefer to have Apex. It has pros and cons, but it's way quicker to make something with flow. So just keep in mind that flow is working, but it's sometimes not the solution to everything. And over here, it's in the end a trigger, what we call the record trigger flow. And when anything is changed on the case, we are starting it. And then afterward, I'm updating the platform event and creating that platform event over here. One last thing that I forgot to mention that I was mentioning a little bit before that is super important and super cool is that you have that replay option. For now, I just say latest. If I'm changing it to earliest, I will see all the platform events that are available for the last 3 days. So to be careful because depending if you have a lot of platform events, you could perhaps running the risk to reprocess things that were already processed. So just being sure that on the other side, it won't cause any issue. And on a normal implementation, we would store that in an object store. In the previous version with CommentD and Bio Protocol, it was made automatically. Now we just need to create back that object store. And like that, it's really convenient because you have that replay ID. And as I was saying, you do be careful because it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's really 1, 5, 7. And you cannot just make a +1 because it's not working like that. In terms of the Salesforce Plus. And I think we are on time for the Q&A. So I think I made just 33 minutes. So yeah, if you have question, feedback, or anything, I'm all yours.
Thank you very much, Bruga. Yes. Anybody, any questions?
And there's no
Okay, I have one question. Yeah. So we use the MuleSoft PubSub API hit the Salesforce platform governance. We'll hit the We'll hit the governance. Yeah.
So you would like me to show you the limit you said?
Okay.
Or the PubSub?
Yes. PubSub. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
So your question was more, why are we using the PubSub instead of CommentD?
Okay, I see. So there's another question raised from others. How is the behavior on multiple replicas? Do we run into duplicate processing in the chat? You can see the message.
So that's a really good question, and yes, you need to be careful, because we saw that. I think I saw that in some project over here. If you have multiple worker of a cloud app, you need to be careful, because you could perhaps reprocess them. So you need to be careful about really the I'm missing my word, but yeah, you can face really that issue, and you need to be sure that I don't know why I'm not remembering what how that's called, but yeah, you need to be sure that it will be only processed once, because both of the worker will receive the platform event. So you need to be sure that whether you have something to take that into account. I'm missing the name of that thing that you have to do, but yeah, I think that's something to manage for sure if you have more than a worker. Yeah, that's the independent. So sorry. So independent, that's exactly the word that I was mixing. Thanks a lot, Diraj. So yeah, we used to have independent, I think, in Mule 3, but now we no longer have. So you have to make yourself your independent implementation. So there's nothing out of the box. So you need to be sure that now it's independent, and the two worker will, if they are processing it at the same time, then you are only making one update or insert or delete. Thanks for your question.
Okay, if anyone don't have other questions, yes, this is thanks, Ruger. Thank you very much. It's a great session. That's great. Okay. So
thanks to you, and arigato gozaimasu for your time and for everything.
Yeah.
And
Thank you very much.
If you have any question, even now, feel free to add me on LinkedIn, and I will answer, and we can even have a call. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so okay, let's end this session, right?
Yeah. Alan, are you able to share the presentation with everyone? Because I see that. Okay.
Of course.
Perfect.
Yeah. I will share it later on this event page. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for everything. Have a nice evening, I think, for nearly everyone.
Have a nice day or good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. And
Thanks a
see
lot.
you soon.
Bye-bye. See you
Bye. Cheers.
soon. Bye.